Hi,
Hi,
who are you again?
my name's Cynthia.
I'm Amy. Nice to meet you.
Should we do the whole thing as Molly Shannon when they do? Hi.
Oh, the two women that like in
Yes.
that shop. What is
Yep.
that? Yeah.
The sweaty
Ah,
balls.
sweaty balls.
Sweaty
Yeah.
balls.
What your sweaty balls. How's your day?
Good. Super Bowl Sunday. Woot woot.
I'm gonna see you in about 3 hours. And I
Woo!
went to a party last night at a friend's house here, my college friends, and I
Fun.
didn't drink anything. Everyone else was shit faced. And I was like, I'm going to the Super Bowl. And then you and I are watching Bachelor on Monday. And I didn't want to drink 5 days in a row because I'm a good girl. So
That's right.
I'm better
Well,
than everybody else. I felt so superior last night to everyone. You know what's crazy? I still slept like shit. And I still woke up feeling completely tired and hungover. And it's like, I've just discovered that no matter what I do, I just feel hungover.
yeah, just wait till you get to be my age, lady, because I'm older than you. And then we'll
I
talk. Mm,
hope I get to be your age.
I think
It's a
you
good
will be.
age.
Not
Okay. You
that
think
old.
I'll make it?
I think you'll make it. I think
Okay.
you make
Well,
it.
we'll see.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going to happen. We're going to bike
Yeah.
over to Carolyn's. I could go we get hit by a bus.
Oh, we're gonna Uber.
Yeah. God, I hope you can find an Uber, but I'm sure you will.
I
It's good.
think
You're not
so.
going to wait.
You have to get invited, right?
No, not anymore. It's open to everyone.
Oh, oh, maybe
Yeah.
we'll try that. I don't know.
Well,
That kind of
we
freaks
must,
me out.
yeah, you don't have to. No, it's great. Don't be that person.
Oh,
Don't be like
you of all people, stop.
technology.
Don't be afraid if someone says hello to you and chats with you in the Uber. Don't even try to pull that with me. Don't
Sorry.
even.
Sorry. I don't like it when people talk to me. Okay. Plus, I put on my Uber quiet preferred. Like I'm up front with this. And then
Yep.
I immediately get in and
Yep.
put on headphones and I'll say, "Hey, do you mind if I make a phone call?" And then I don't make a phone call, but I pretend I make a phone call. And then I go, "Oh yeah. Oh, tell me about it. I've got lots of time. I can listen to a long story so that I don't have to." I say the same thing every time. It's really ridiculous. Anyway,
See, I'm the other way. Chris is always like, you don't have to chat with everybody.
I know, but you do actually. You do have to chat with everyone. That's you.
I do.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
hey, how are you feeling about the Later Daters ending? This being our last episodes.
Oh, I really enjoyed it. And so
Yeah,
that's bittersweet, right? I will say I did see that Love is Blind is starting
I saw too.
on Valentine's Day. But so not as good as Later Daters, but we'll talk about it later. But then afterwards, you follow up and see what's going on in the real world and, or months later, and it's kind of the same results.
Yep.
Oh,
I
there's,
did my half-assed internet research. I'm ready for it.
hmm hmm
All right, you
Yep.
want to dive in? Can we, I was kind
Yeah,
of
let's dive
the
in.
way we would, yeah, we would structure it today is that we would go through just the people, not for any preference that we have or anything, but just based on the way they came up in episode seven. And but I
Yeah.
thought we would talk about both episode 7 and 8 per person. Is that all right? Instead of
Yep.
splitting
Works
it
for
up
me.
between 7 and 8, because I think that's what we did last time. All right, so we should start with Suzanne, our Georgia Bulldogs
Damn.
sequence lady. We open an episode 7 with her son and daughter, and they're talking um, about various things, but I really couldn't pay any attention to it because did you see the flutes they were drinking out of?
Yes. Yes, I did.
Uh,
Glass of
what?
bubbly. I'm not going to say champagne. And did you see her track pants, her silver
Oh, the silk
lame
track pants did
pants?
not go unnoticed.
Hmm. With the rainbow tied sweater. Mm.
Yes, I'm sending you a picture of this flute, and I'm actually going to put it in case you didn't see exactly what I'm talking about, which is, of course, they're drinking because Suzanne's always drinking. But this flute looks
Yeah.
like something that a Viking would drink out of. It has a very heavy square wooden bottom. So, did you notice the
Okay.
square?
I did not notice that part, so I'm going to have to take a gander at that. I didn't notice that. But she is
Very,
drinking every single shot and frame. And there's no judgment. It's just an observation.
there, I don't
And
know.
I
It
will
kind of
say
sounds like
though,
we're getting judgy about it.
well, we're judgy, but it's for me, it's a little bit, I mean, Suzanne's only maybe 2 years older than me. She's 62, right? I think she's
Really?
62. And I'm about to be 60. So she's only a couple years older. And when I'm watching her drinking all the time, I'm just more like, how are you doing that at our age? Like, I feel it so much more than ever that I just get, does she drink that like that all the time? I have a feeling she does. Or is it just because of show, it takes a little bit of her edge off? I just get more like, how do you drink that much and sleep and not feel tired the next day? Like I just get fascinated with that part. I mean, more
Yeah,
than anything.
still an
Yeah.
optometrist part time. She's still going to work
Yeah.
now. And yeah, I don't know because I'm 9 years younger than you, 8.5 years younger than you. And I can't do it. But I know that she said some things about Avery and Jeff, but really I was way too busy taking pictures of the atrocities and of the flutes that I don't really know what she said. Besides, she calls Avery a bad boy. And I was like, a bad boy, really? But then I was like, oh, yeah, he brought up the threesome unprompted. And that would kind of make you be like, what was that about? Maybe he is a bad boy because thou doth protest too much about the threesome. And she said she's debating going on another date and it's either Avery or Jeff. And you and I talked about this last time. I was like, wait a minute, why does it have to be either or? But then I realized Nate talks about it too. He said either going to be Michelle or Lisa. And I'm realizing that the producers are making him choose between one or the other to go on a final date with. I'm assuming after the show, he can do whatever he wants. But for this thing, they've got to choose their favorite to go on a date with. Did you get
Well,
that same feeling?
I don't think that they had to choose like four people to go out with, or maybe they it doesn't seem like that in some ways, but I think towards the end, yes, there is going to be somebody. And they definitely, we see, they try to build up a suspense of, ooh, who is it going to be? Who is Suzanne going to call? Who is she talking to on the phone when she says, I miss you and I'm thinking about you and let's meet? And same thing with Nate, who we'll get to. So definitely the producers are trying to make it suspenseful.
Didn't you know that was going to be Jeff for the boat date?
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, the loafers alone, I figured that was Jeff.
Oh, okay. All right. Listen, I loved her outfit on this boat ride. She
Mhm.
had a
Mhm.
cropped white jean. She had a white tank. Lori would hate the white shirt, but anyway, she looked great. However, Jeff comes down, and boy, do they focus on his shoes. And the shoes looked like, I wrote this down, an alligator wrestled with a Smurf. And then the Smurf like went to a Grateful Dead concert and got tie-dyed. I don't know what happened. It was bad, bad, bad. Lots of
And
close-ups.
while carrying a bottle of Galliano.
Okay.
So it didn't get better up.
Okay, he brings the Galliano on to drink. You and I made notes about the same exact things.
Who
His,
drinks that anymore? They must be drinking Harvey Wallabangers, right?
okay, yes.
What?
Did you notice that they had the Galliano in a drink holder on the boat, and it was next to a liter bottle of Tito's vodka that had been
Yes.
pre-batched with orange juice. And clearly they were making Harvey Wallbangers, which is a cocktail that nobody has ordered since 1973. It's just a screwdriver with a float of Galliano on top. I had to
Yes.
look this up. And I also
Oh, I
looked this
knew.
up.
I knew. Because my dad used to drink them
Did you
in
make
the
them for him?
70s. What's that?
Did you ever like Mad Men style mix one up for him at home?
Probably. I think I did actually. And my aunt, who was a nun, would come to visit, and every once in a while she would have one with him, which because she didn't usually drink, and they would have Harvey Wallabangers together.
You did have the coolest nun aunt.
I did. I did. She was amazing. Sister Marie, shout out. Yeah, so I didn't know what a Harvey Wallabanger was, and I was like, okay, I don't think my dad's even drank those, who is, not a connoisseur of cocktails.
He does
Um,
like his Fanta.
Yeah, he likes his Manischewitz, and he's not Jewish. So so there's that. Uh,
But God help me, they are drinking out of matching glasses with the flute, but they're shorter and squatter. So she clearly has a whole set of these wood
yeah,
wood bottomed with studs on them, kind of looked like, I mean, the glasses looked like they were from the 1970s. So
Yes.
thick.
Awful. So, yeah, not a fan.
Suzanne tells us that she's not the best at navigation as she grabs the wheel of the boat with one hand and has a cocktail in the other.
I do
She's
like that
driving.
style. I do like that.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I was like, aren't they scared to have on video that they're drinking and boating, which is a huge
Yes.
no.
Yes. It's drinking and driving,
I
really.
guess after Avery was so trashed on their drive home from the Bulldogs game, this seemed pretty innocuous compared to that.
Yes.
This seemed to me like the most awkward kind of date because she's at the wheel and so she has to focus on driving. But did you notice that some of the time she's like looking over at him as she's doing this? I just thought this would be my work. This date is not a date for me.
They don't really show a lot of the date. I mean, they show the arrival, but they don't really show much of their interactions together.
No, and we don't see him leaving. They don't kiss. There doesn't seem to be much conversation, just a lot of alcohol and some water. But I didn't think they had much of a connection at all. But of course, we wouldn't know because the edit didn't show that.
They definitely didn't show it. I mean, I've had those dates, so no judgment there.
So the date ends. Then Logan comes over and they have some kind of food. There's like a cheese dip, I think, and a crock pot that I couldn't tell looked like everything I've ever wanted or just dog
Not
vomit. Like I just wasn't really sure. Suzanne at this stage, after she's gone on this date with Jeff, seems to want to pursue one of the men. And I honestly thought it was going to be Jeff. During this buildup, were you shocked when she said it was going to be Avery?
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
I wasn't shocked. I was happy about it.
Hmm.
I mean, I was a little surprised, but I guess I wasn't shocked because to me, she definitely seemed like she had the most connection with him. But wait a minute. Okay. So then Grandma's there. Dottie, I think, is the name.
Yeah.
And they decide to play this game. You're supposed to be out somewhere and you just scream penis really loud. So they tell the grandmother that, and the grandma yells, "Peanuts!"
It's hilarious.
And they all start yelling, and they're like, "No, penis!" And so they all are laughing. And that's when Logan comes in. And I remember, I think it was on the first recap that we did that you asked me if I would want to hang out with Suzanne. I was like, no, not really. I think I've changed my mind. And I think now I would want to. I think that would be a lot of fun. I don't think we'd be besties. Well, I already have one. I, but I think, oh my God, she could be a hoot for a bit, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I like Suzanne represents such a stereotype of a Southern woman. I don't need to say this 1,000 times, but obviously being from Georgia and this is filmed in Georgia, like she's a type that I know.
Mm.
And part of me feels like she's the type that she's so flirty and she puts herself out there, but at the same time, she's in some ways like a little bit reserved. But I
Hmm.
do feel like that through this process, she seems to have opened up just like most of them have.
Definitely, she's opened up. Logan says, to her kids, your mom's crushed it.
Mm.
It's true because every single date she had, the guy wanted to pursue her. There's something about her energy. I think she's very likable and she's not really guarded. There is a little bit of that reserved, I think, to her, but she's pretty open and loose as far as like just having a good time.
Yeah, I guess from reserved, I think what I mean is, she didn't share a ton of personal stuff about herself. I guess when it comes from like the Southern woman's point of view,
Mm.
the way I kind of see it is that they keep a lot close to the chest. She wasn't going to go out and talk about her vulnerabilities, although can I tell you I did a deep dive with her on Instagram and she just recently, and I mean in January, was making posts about losing her husband and how hard it was to like make friends afterwards. And these are I think some of the things that I would have maybe liked to have seen from her in the episode. She does talk in the very beginning about losing her husband. And again, it could be editing, we don't know, but she seems like party girl fun time. You know what she kind of reminds me of is like the way Jen in the last season of The Bachelorette presented herself. Shot
Mm.
o'clock, Jen. Instead of
Right.
something that you felt like somebody would want something, I'm sorry, instead of feeling like that they wanted something a little bit more serious,
Right.
she says about Avery, which I really like, after she goes on the date with Jeff, she says she couldn't stop thinking
Mhm.
about him. And I agree with you. They did to me, they seem to have them, besides the Bulldogs, Bama
Right.
rivalry, seem to have the most in common. And she gets on the phone with Avery. And one of the things that I really loved that he said, because I think I would say this later in life, I didn't hear from you. What turned you off?
Mhm.
What turned you off about me? And she said that she needed to believe that he was sincere. So just like her, he seemed like this fun guy, which is, by the way,
Mhm.
exactly how he seemed. She seemed like fun time gal. So is this like fun guy thing that she was feeling good about, but also feeling like maybe this is a guy that just wants to bang and have a threesome? And she says, can we get to know each other slower? What would that mean to you if somebody said that to you?
Yeah. I think him bringing up that threesome, and then I think he was chatting with her a lot and reaching out a lot. And then he was like, "Oh, I'm going to boat ride tomorrow. Oh, I'll be here tomorrow." I think she was feeling like, "Whoa, let's slow down a little bit. Maybe we're all jumping in too quick." Does that really answer the question? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it does, because what I think the way I would feel is that they had serious chemistry. They
Mhm.
were touchy with each other. They did an edit this time around where it showed her leaning in to kiss him, kind of on the mouth, on the cheek, kind of thing. And I thought, if you have that much chemistry with somebody, sometimes things move quicker than they do if she's going out with Jeff, who's a little bit more reserved. I think that is a hard thing to slow down. How do you slow down chemistry with somebody?
And sometimes you can go too quick with people. I mean, I'm always very wary of someone who's just like and gloms on really quickly, unless I'm right there with that person. And then usually in the past, that wasn't a good thing. It never
It
really
like
panned
burns
out.
out. You said fire. It like burns out too quickly.
It burns
It's
out
like
really
too
quick.
hot.
And if someone does that with me, I just get like, if they attach that quickly, they're going to detach just as quick. And I've
Right.
always been right. Always, every single time I have been right, even with girlfriends going, no, it's this, it's that. It's like, nope, I was right. And so I get very wary of that as well. And that's not even, that's for me, it's not usually sexual energy. It's somebody who is kind of talking about us in the future a lot, right away, who's contacting me a lot. Yeah, it just feels like too instant, like you're my boyfriend or something, and I don't like it. So I guess that would be it for me.
That's a really good point when people yeah, you're right. When they attach and then they're able to detach.
Because it's not really about you, you know? If they're
Right.
not really they're it's not really about. I had a guy once, we went on one date and he was asking me out again and said he missed me, and I was like, "What? Well, then you need to get a life because you don't even fucking know me and you already missed me." There's something wrong with that. And I didn't go out with him again. It was a big turnoff to me. Miss me.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. Please. Please.
Please.
Please. Well, I thought we would talk within each person is the 2 months later follow up. So it seems 2 months later that Avery and Suzanne have been dating for that whole 2 months. And to me, they seem to be getting on really well. And I guess by that, I mean they've become great drinking buddies. She pours him a country club 4 finger pour of vodka, but they do just
That
sit
was like
down.
a cup. Sorry, that was like an 8 ounces
It was
of
8 ounces
Cheetos.
of vodka of Tito's. It was a lot of Tito's.
And
But
I'm
then
not a
they're
Cheeto
sitting on
fan.
the couch. They're kind of holding hands, and they talk about being open to marriage, which is too soon for young couples. But then I thought, oh, to be talking about marriage 2 months in, if you only have 10 more years to live, I guess this is the right time. You need to bring it up ASAP. So I think
Yeah.
it would be important to tell somebody that I was dating that up front, and then they kiss. They get a little schmoopies, and it seemed really real and natural.
You know, it's more common for men to get remarried than women.
I do.
One, like by really high percentage
Oh, wow.
after divorce. I don't know about being a widow, but after divorce, it is. I thought it was really cute when he said to her, there was a moment when she says, I did, I'm so glad I gave you a second chance. I really liked his response to her and the way he looked at her when she said that and just kind of endeared and not offended.
Yeah, I totally agree. I like Avery a lot, and I think they're a really good match. And then at the end, we'll do a little follow up at the end of this episode on maybe what
Yeah.
we out after it. Do you want to go on to Anise?
Yes. So,
Let's just
lots
put
of
it out there.
conversation.
Anise is my favorite.
Yes,
Is she your favorite?
she is.
Good. I can agree on that. Logan, we open with Logan visiting Anise. The way Anise talks about Willie is so sweet. It's like she's a teenager. Oh, did you see Willie's body in that
Yeah.
Instagram? 12 pack. What is he, 57? 12 pack.
12 pack. Insane. 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 Yeah, he looks good. So Anise, she's talking about how she's not minimizing herself, which to me, yeah, making herself small for somebody else. And I thought that was huge. And that's great growth, right? And that's all you could want. Then she talks about uh, Willie being slang for penis. And Duena says, take that in with her so great look. And that's the name of episode 7. Take
Oh,
that
is
in.
it?
Yeah.
I didn't know
I
that.
loved that. And that, which brings us to, yes, she should have her own show because they named the episode after Take That In. But I think
And they
that's
named
so
the
great.
second episode, E8 was after her when she said she had an aha moment. That was also Anise's line.
Yes. 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 So anyway, I think that's, kudos to her to learn that and not to make herself small for anybody else. That's huge.
Duena says her mom has been talking about Willie like daily, and that just made me so excited for Anise to have this teenage feeling. I don't think that there's a lot of times later in our life, especially if we've been married, that we get to have that feeling of almost falling in love
Mhm.
and giddiness that you have around someone. And so I'm really excited to see where this goes. But I have some info for you. I did some digging on Duena. Duena is a PR gal. She has a company or website. I think it's a company called www.asktheprgirl.com. And when you go to her website on the homepage, our girl Duena is carrying a flute of champagne, a proper flute, not one that's a Viking, and sitting at her desk as she's got like coffee and champagne. And then I love her more than I ever thought I could. And I just want to be her friend. And I want all of her advice because on her Instagram, she gives advice about PR and about women who own businesses. She's 45 years old. 45. I thought she was in her early 30s. She's
Yes.
married and she has an 11-year-old daughter, and her life looks awesome. And maybe one day she'll be our friend. And I just wanted you to know that I did my research on Duena.
Duena, I love both of them so much. Oh, I love that. I love that.
And her
Wow.
husband seems awesome. She does the sweetest posts about love of my life, on and on with her husband, which sometimes, I don't love, like can be over the top, but it doesn't feel that way with her. It
Right.
doesn't feel like she's trying to justify the fact that she hates her marriage, which is what it seems like sometimes when people are like, just love my husband so much. It's like, yeah, really?
Heidi
But
and Seal getting remarried every year and now divorced, right? It's like,
oh
what do
yeah,
you,
the Heidi Klum effect, Heidi Klum seal.
yes. Yeah. When you're trying to prove and how much you love this person to yourself and to the world. And
Yeah, you don't need to renew your vows every year. So, okay, so let's get back to the date with Anise and Willie. They have a phone call. Yes. They were on a phone call at the end of E6, and we find out at the beginning of E7 that they were on the phone for 2 hours. She gets really emotional about feeling like for the first time she's embracing her whole self, which is kind of what you were talking about before, not minimizing herself. I swear with Anise, I've almost cried like 3 times when I see her showing the softer side and being so sincere and open and ready for love. And she just seems changed from the first episode.
it's really touching, and especially for somebody who just seems like such a good, kind person. And for her to not minimize what she's accomplished is because if you're minimizing yourself, you're making yourself small in some way for somebody or for people to be able to, take you in. And for her to learn that, that's just, yeah, life changing.
It just makes me love her more. So Anise and Willie go on a hiking date. They were walking so slowly that I was like, y'all got to speed this up. I don't know where you're going, but it was like barely one foot in front of the other, but it was still sweet.
Yep.
Anise seems to want a kiss. She talks about this formula that she has. I can't remember what it was. Did you write it down by chance?
I did. Janice says her saying is first, he gets my attention. Second, I turn in his direction. And third is I lean in.
It's
I
pretty
like
good.
that. I never heard that. And he does greet her by saying, "Hey, Patricia," because he mispronounced her name and got it wrong 3 or 4 times on their first date. So uh, they talk about that. But yes, she seems, when I think are they feeding each other strawberries once they sit down? It looks like
Yes, she puts a
strawberries.
strawberry in his mouth and then she said it was so good putting it in your mouth. And she says it twice. They were staring at each other and so close. And I was just like, come on. It was almost like watching a rom-com. When are you
Hmm.
you're just
Hmm.
and I think they're gonna cut or they're not going to, or one of them's gonna get shy. But then they do kiss and they like kiss.
They kiss.
They
They
say
kiss.
names to each other over and over. Oh, Willie, I just like saying your name. And it's almost like they totally forgot that the camera was there.
Yes, it was really sweet. And she, what does she say when uh I just want to say your name? What is it that she says? Is that it? Did I get that right?
Yeah.
And he just kind of melts, and I love the way he looks at her, and it seems to be very genuine, not just physical. They seem to really have a genuine appreciation for each other, and definitely the sexual tension, but also they seem to be really appreciate who the other person is
Yeah,
on
I
the.
completely agree. 2 months later, no surprise, right? They're still together. I'm just completely obsessed with them. When they go out to the dinner, they look like they walked off of a runway. They are so impeccably dressed. They're both beautiful people. And I absolutely teared up. I mean, I was already in a little bit of a weird space this morning, but I teared up when I saw Anise and that selfie with Willie's mom. And I'm just like, oh, they're in love. And my favorite part of this whole thing was that Dwayna picked out Willie. Like, what a full circle moment.
Mhm. I love that she ordered his water, and he's like, "Oh, you know what I like? Sparkling." It was so cute.
We're going to follow up with them too at the end. Next, let's move on to Greg. Are you ready for Greg?
Sure.
Okay.
It's brief.
Greg, because he was really only in half of the episodes, 4 episodes, I feel less of a connection with him. So we open up with him saying that he won't date Kelly again because of metro Atlanta traffic. And I want to say to Greg, to be fair, in Atlanta, traffic is as bad or worse as it is in LA, but that doesn't
Oh,
mean that they can't take turns driving to each other. And when you get older, maybe you don't need to spend every single day together. But he said his conscience was telling him to move on to date number 2, but that didn't mean that he couldn't go out with Kelly again, unless the producers were like, you can only do one or the other, right?
we keep saying that. Yes, we keep like every single person on the show. So what's the dealio? Why do you feel like you can only date one person? Is that a generation thing? Is that a producer thing? Or is it just, I don't know, lack of dating knowledge?
It might be that. I think it's a producer thing. I think they say you've got to make a choice one way or the other for us to film. And during this 6 week period, you have to kind of play by our rules. Who knows? I would love to do more research on this. I think when we get Michelle Obama on the podcast,
Yes.
we'll talk to her about it. Okay. So Greg lays out some shirts for his son to pick what he's wearing. Listen, I hate this shirt. It looks like carpet in a motel. Carpet in a motel where you could spill a lot of things on it and no one would notice.
And he's a nice looking guy. Like,
Apparently looks like Kevin Klein.
and he kind of does. I did
I
see.
kind
Yeah.
of does.
Yes, Kevin Klein. Yes, now. Yes, I saw this. I saw the resemblance. She shows up. What's her name?
Sherry. Sherry is 60. She's been divorced 3 times, 2 kids.
She's attractive and
Absolutely.
right. And to me, the date starts off well enough. It, there is a moment where they they both have what, an old fashioned. I was like, thank God, not a mimosa, no, not a Shirley Temple. So they both start. It seems like it starts off well enough, and then they get to the bourbon tasting, And she starts talking and obviously is well traveled. She says, "Oh, I've been to India and I lived in Turkey and yada yada." And he just shuts down. Has not, you can tell she's saying these things like, "Oh, no, I lived in Turkey," thinking he's going to comment, "Oh, wow, how fascinating. How long did you live there for? What was that like? What was a big cultural?" There's so much to talk about. I would find so many questions I could ask. And he's just like, dunk, nothing, nada, zip. And it seems like the date just goes, and it crashes and she's done, right? It kind of ends abruptly, the date.
It seems to. What is so funny is
Oh, you're
I have the
frozen.
complete opposite interpretation of this date. Like
God
Sherry,
damn it.
she seems approachable, but I didn't feel like she was sharing much. The way it was edited was she was like interviewing Greg. She was like the interviewer, and Greg
Hmm.
seemed running out of things to say. And one of the things I liked about Greg is that he knows he's a talker. And he kept, he said in the confessional, I'm telling myself that I need to slow down because he's almost sharing too much information too quickly. And then you do run out of things to say when you don't know someone that much. He was really throwing back the whiskey, which I'm like, if things don't work out with Avery, maybe he and Suzanne could be a couple. But
I
I
didn't
just think
know.
he was
Sorry. Sorry. I didn't know if he was telling himself to slow down talking or drinking.
same. I did not know either, but I assumed it was talking, but it could have been drinking. I have the same note. I wasn't really sure.
I rewound it 3 times. Like, wait, drinking or talking?
You did not arrive at a conclusion?
No.
Well, then Sherry is telling her travel stories. And I honestly almost felt like she was looking down on him. She says she
Mm.
lived in India, traveled to Turkey. I love South Africa. But all she said was, like, for instance, he says, "Oh, I've never been to Turkey or Istanbul." And she says, "Well, there's a lot of history there." And I'm like, "Yeah, Sherry, we know that there's a lot of history in Istanbul." Maybe he didn't know. Maybe he really didn't. When Greg says that he likes to go somewhere that he's never been. Like that is something that he really likes to do. I like to go somewhere that I've never been and travel and discover. He means Charleston, South Carolina. He does not mean Istanbul. They have a very different idea of where they're like where to someplace they've never been. He probably, I mean, I don't know Greg at all, but my guess is he's not been out of the country that often. And if he has been out of the country, it's on like a beach vacation to Mexico or to the Caribbean. Probably
No, it's Montana. It's camping.
Montana, he does.
It's
Like
fly fishing Montana, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just very, very different. I can see where you're coming from with her. Maybe it looks like it's almost like she's looking down on him, a little judgy. But at the same time, I feel like she was bringing up the travels, and he didn't ask her questions about it more. And if he was doing a lot of the talking before that, if he was telling himself slow down, do less talking, let her talk, I felt like he could have asked her questions more to keep the conversation alive.
I feel like that he knows so little about international travel. Like he is so sheltered in a way. I mean, we
Mm.
see his porch. I'm going to send you this picture that I screenshot. I don't know if you noticed one of the last shots they get of Greg, and we still have a little bit more to talk about with Greg, but they take a picture of him on his porch that looks like the old man in the sea. Like he is settled in. It is movie perfect with the little lights up and there's junk everywhere, but it looks gorgeous. And he is settled in to his life. He doesn't know what to ask her about India. He doesn't
Yeah.
know. He doesn't understand. He didn't even know Turkey was a place. He was like, "Wait, where was that other place you said?" And she was like, "Turkey." He was like,
Right.
"Right." I don't think he knew that Turkey was a country. Honest to God. Like she's really worldly and he wants to ride a Harley for a week with all of his clothes in a backpack and doesn't care if he gets laundry done. Like they are not for each
I
other.
want to do both. That's
Oh,
me.
I'm
I
not
would do
coming
both.
on a Harley. No, I'll go with you.
Oh, I know that. Trust me.
Take your sister. Take your sister.
Yes. But I'd want to do both. So, yeah.
Well, then I got to say, one of the one of the things that I really like about Greg is that he somehow, in his confessional at the end, says that he likes her. He's intrigued by her and he wants to go on another date. And I was shocked. I was like, oh, Greg, she ain't going out with
Mhm.
you anymore. But it showed me how open he was and maybe a little bit how close she was. And the date just made me feel like a little bad for Greg.
I think he knew that she probably wouldn't. I don't think he was shocked that she said no. I think he kind of felt it. And I think that when he did, so then he ends up going back with Logan and they talk about, because he tells Kelly no, the woman day before, that he doesn't want to go out with her because of traffic. And then he starts thinking about it probably after this date, right? And it's like, well, maybe I shot that down too quickly. Maybe one of us would have been, I should have at least explored it more to see if one of us was willing to move to the other location. And so it reaches out back out to her. And her response is I just started dating someone else and it's in the new stages of. Do you believe her? Do you think that in that brief time that she's already dating somebody new and that's why she doesn't want to go out again?
I do because Kelly seems like she was maybe ready to find somebody. She was that date, she wants to have fun. I think because he, for whatever reason, for the show, is limited on how many people he's dated at once. She might have been dating a bunch of people, but I wrote this phrase down. When he reaches back out to Kelly, I think this is when the show changes to too little, too late dater. Come on, that was funny.
Wait. What was it? What was it?
I think the show changes to too little, too later dater.
Uh, yes.
Too little, too late dater, too little, too later date. I haven't really fully worked it out. But I do think it's funny. Well, let me ask you about now Sherry. He meets with Logan and we hear him say, "Well, I reached out to Sherry for a date and she has taken a trip out of town and can't get together." And I was like, "Oh, this is the previous generation's way of ghosting." Do you remember when you would get, a guy would text you, would be like, "Oh, hey, you want to grab a drink?" And they would be like, "Oh, really busy with work this week." And that's when the "he's just not that into you" book kind of came out. It's like when they start doing that, that's when they're not going to go on a date with you instead of just not responding, which is what people do nowadays, I guess. Um,
Uh, because that happened to Pam,
correct.
right? Was his
That's
name
right.
Paul? Paul does that. Oh, I have to travel. Oh, I'm going. So yes. And I think Felton, who we'll get to later.
Oh,
I guess it's maybe it's a generation thing, right? Instead of just saying, "Yeah, no, I'm over it
yeah,
now."
I'm not interested. I didn't feel a connection, which at this age is I think something that you should say pretty quickly to not waste anyone's time. I mean, because none of us know how much time we have, but definitely when you're hitting like 70, you might want to consider like not stringing someone along for too long. One of the other
Mhm.
things I wanted to talk to you about, Logan is going over Greg's dating profile.
Oh,
And
yeah.
God help me, Greg has pictures with dead fish. And I just want to say, guys, you gotta stop doing that. No one cares about your catch of
Yeah.
the day. I have a friend who is 40 and she's trying to date. Half of the guys, she sends me screenshots, half of the guys that come up in her profile have a picture holding a dead fish. Like, this isn't impressive. I just want to say that if you have a dead fish in your dating profile, you should have to take it down right now. Like, stop this, stop everything you're doing, and go take that picture down. It's not flattering.
No, not a look.
It's not. It's not a good look.
No.
I
I think it's really sweet though, that she does that with him. And he's a good looking guy, really. And then there's that one picture that was a little dopey. He had that
Oh
funny
my
look,
God, he looked like Charles Manson, and he
right? Yeah, that was a
agrees.
little.
He
Yeah.
just needed somebody to point it out to him. And the truth is, he knew, but maybe he didn't have another picture, or there wasn't something that he put up, and so he thought, "What difference does it make? I'll put this up." But it makes a difference, I
And
think.
she gives him good advice. You have to paint a
Yeah.
story. You can't just say, "I like to get up, fish, take a nap, relax, blah, blah." Who's going to get excited about that? So she gives him really good advice. So he doesn't end up with anybody. Again, he was on the show a fraction compared to everyone else. So we don't get to know him as much. But hopefully that advice for Logan, from Logan, gets him going, I guess.
Yeah. I think that he says, just like, all of them, that he has become more confident, but he did
Mhm.
get the short end of the stick in terms on the show, in terms of just going on 2 dates. But Logan, I mean, we all need Logan in our lives. All of these people need Logan. We certainly, you and I could, when we have Logan on the
Yeah, I think
right?
everyone could use a Logan in their life.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. We can say goodbye to Greg.
Okay,
Lori.
Lori.
When we open up with Lori, Lori is getting ready for her party and she has a stylist. Were you surprised at that?
Was
Do
that
you
a
think she
stylist? I
actually,
thought somebody was, shit, that was a stylist?
it says Lori's stylist.
Oh, you're right.
So yeah, I guess
Yeah,
it's stylist.
yeah, I guess you're safe to say that. Uh, yeah, not only was I surprised, I didn't catch that. So yes, I was surprised right when you told me.
Well, her stylist is clearly someone in her life, because her stylist asks her about her date, and we learn that Felton brushed her off, which we saw at the end of of E6. And this is again the same thing that just happened with Sherry and Greg. Felton said, I don't know, I don't know, that he was busy or that he couldn't make it. And that's how I immediately knew when we saw that phone call between them that he was not into her. She says that she's invited Martin to her party, but I mean, it's actually more like Martin invited himself to her party. And she hesitated and then said yes. But sure, let's just say that she invited him to the party. So then we go to Lori's party. She looks festive. She's got her rich Auntie Lori shirt on. Did you notice that?
Yes,
She
yes.
had $20 bills taped to her shirt, which I felt made her more like middle class Auntie Lori. But
Yeah,
no,
I wasn't sure what that was about.
yeah.
What were the $20 bills there
I
for?
think it was just like she's money, she's richy, but for $40,
Yeah.
you can't even go
Yeah.
to McDonald's for $40 these days.
No, no. And then Martin shows up with the best flowers,
Hmm.
bouquet of flowers the entire
Yes.
season, right? Of this show. I hope there's another season. Definitely shows up with the best flowers that we've seen and nicely put together. I thought he was more handsome on this date to me. He looked great and he just seems like a really nice guy
Hmm.
to me. Um, and then it's just I don't know. It was just so awkward and just so weird when they finally go. It was when they greet and she's nice and she takes the flowers and all of that. But when they sit down on that couch to talk, and it's like I feel like he did not want to sit. She did not want to sit on that couch with him, right? Like it just felt like you're interrupting my flow. Again, no really eye contact with him whatsoever. Which I keep thinking about her date with Ty, how she calls him out for that, but yet she is horrible at making eye contact with people. And then he kind of calls her out on it,
Hmm.
and but not like a. I didn't feel like it was really aggressive,
No.
but he says, hey, something about making eye contact with him, and she's like, well, you're disrupting my flow, or I have this thing going, and it was very awkward and cringy.
Yeah, she blames it on the party. And what I think is that when she looks back at this show, she's going to see that she looks past people. Almost, you've had those people in your life, because we've both been in, I mean, we're actors, whatever that means, for a period of time. But sometimes you would go to these more industry uh filled parties where there's some important people there and some people like me or us or whatever that would be less important there, like in the grand scheme of who, like we're not a celebrity somewhere. And then sometimes the person you were talking to, their eyes are darting around the room trying to figure out who's the more important person for you to talk to. And that's what Lori was doing. That's fine, this is her party. But I think maybe she should have said, no, don't come to my party, because I think I'm going to be distracted with my friends.
Sorry. I just don't think she's that evolved of a person. I mean, we'll get to it, but when her son says something about her being able to work on her toxic traits,
That's at the very end. Yeah, you can talk about it now. Yeah, she needs to
I
work
mean,
on.
the fact that your son's saying that is just what's your mom's type when Logan or the producers ask Kennedy and Sean, like, what's your mom's type? And they both just look at each other and start laughing. I feel when Logan tells her that she's like being at an airport, it's just, you see it so much.
It could be that she's super insecure and has this, she puts up this front. And so that's why she comes across as maybe a little rude. Like Kennedy says, mommy's personality might be too bold for Martin. But honestly, like it wasn't too bold. It was just rude. And I mean, she
Yeah.
has no connection with Martin. I mean, that was evident from
Yeah.
the first date. Why she decided to bring him out again, it was only because Felton wasn't available. When Lori talks about Felton, she says that they have this banter going back and forth, but we saw this in E5 and E6, and he didn't seem that interested in bantering, and he didn't show up at our party, and Martin did. Then, were you surprised? I don't know. Do you have anything else to say about the party?
No, I thought kudos to Martin for staying as long as he did, and I think that he is very dignified. I really like him. If they do have another later daters, I feel like he should be one of the daters they follow.
Oh, Sin, it'll be like the way they do Paradise, like the cast-offs from
Right?
that idea. I would love to see Kelly on this show too. Ty would be fun to bring back. And maybe even Frank, Suzanne's first date. Those might be fun people.
Mhm.
Maybe George, that'd be kind of awesome. Just how inappropriate he would be. But just to end with Lori. Okay, so Felton did not come to Lori's party, but he calls her and says he wants to take her out on a dinner date, and that he's in Atlanta. I am wondering if their very first phone call, remember when she goes, "Do you want me to come to your party?" And he seemed distracted and like, well, we just come to find out that he doesn't live in Atlanta. But he says he's going to come to Atlanta and take her on a dinner date. So I'm wondering if the edit was, or this is what I was wondering at the time, he was hesitant to come to her party because he was going to have to bring a plane. And do you know what I mean? Like maybe
Yeah,
I thought maybe he wasn't being rude. Maybe he really is into her until we
until we see
get
the
to the
date.
date. Okay. So yeah, he misses her party and then he says, "I'm going to take you on this dinner date." But then he uses the word date.
Hmm.
If you
And
have a
he was going
time,
to pick her up.
and he's going to pick her up. He's like, "I'll pick you." Then he goes, "I'll pick you up at 5." And she goes, "Oh, what time is it? Damn, I got to get off and get ready." And I'm like, is he asking her out on the same day? Is it like 4:15? And he's like, "I'll be there in 45 minutes." Weird editing
Yeah,
anyway.
that was weird. And I would not accept. Sorry.
No.
45 minutes? No. No. I'm busy.
When he asked her, did you think it was a date before you saw the actual date? What did you think was going to happen?
Yes, from that conversation, I did think it was a date.
Same. I
Yeah.
thought maybe we've been reading this all too wrong. But then
Hmm.
Lori shows up on the date and says, "I almost wore a sexy dress for you, Felton." And Felton's response, not
Awkward.
more lackluster.
That was like, that was a thud. That just like landed and it was bump. And he almost looked like he cringed. And of course she wasn't looking at him, so she didn't see that. And then she gets a little touchy and let me see your watch. And she's trying to connect with him. And she puts her hand on him by looking at his watch and holding his sleeve. And he gets it on Amazon. And he's wearing a white t-shirt, but that's okay because she likes his whole style. And then what does she say to him? How does she?
She straight up turns to him and says, "What do you think about me?"
Yes. Yes.
I am like, I'm sorry. This feels so me. And I know that she's trying to dig in and try to figure out what he wants. But I think by being vulnerable, Logan didn't mean find out what he thinks about you. She meant tell him how you feel about him. And then the natural response will be, "Oh, you feel that way about me? This is how I feel about you." Instead of, "What about me? Tell me about me."
Yeah.
It's
What
just
do
a
you think
weird way
about
to
me?
ask
Like,
that question.
very weird. That's not bold. It's just, I kept thinking about when Kennedy says, oh, my mom might be too bold. And it's like, that's not a boldness.
Oh,
That's just like, I don't even know what to call it, but it was so awkward. And when she's talking to him about the relationship and then like, or what are your thoughts about does he think of her in that way? Basically, she asked him and he's like, no. And tells her that often she expresses every thought that she has, and it's not always the time to do so. So she's heard that kind of comment from him, Logan, her kids, and she's like, oh, and she just keeps cutting that chicken or whatever she's eating. And again, no eye contact. And I wonder if she really gets it. And then she thinks she's going to get married in 2 years when they follow up with her. Do you think she's really learned anything and is really going to grow from this experience?
I
Yeah.
don't. She's not ready to get married. She's in therapy, but like you and I said last time, she needs a new therapist. Can I tell you one more thing that I noticed that Felton said, which really rubbed me
Hmm.
the wrong way? I think that he flew back to Atlanta to be on this TV show because he says, basically, when I slide into your DMs, most of the time when I reach out in your DMs, it's for something you got going on.
Yes.
Imagine a guy saying that to her. And when she's involved in a lot of these, I don't even know what they are, red carpet events, whatever it is. So she's got something going on. He wants an invite to something. He knows she likes him. It's not even up for debate. Like, it's very obvious that she likes him.
Yeah.
He knows exactly what he's doing. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. He is a
Yes.
later dater fuckboy, but he doesn't want to fuck her. But in general, he wants to show up at these events because I think he's playing the field with all
Yep.
of these pseudo celebrities. I think I said this last time. I think he has 82,000 followers on Instagram, and most of him walking through is just him playing Lenny Kravitz in the background with like a hat, and he's just walking, and he's like he's feeling himself a lot.
And I'm sorry, so far, I think he's a snooze fest.
Snooze fest. And those cheap
Snooze
Amazon
fest.
glasses and the watch are not doing it for me. Like,
No.
just not good.
There's nothing. I mean, I do like that he said to her, you don't have to say basically everything that comes in. It's like a turn off. But I'm not into Felton. I at all. And I do think that he probably was sending her mixed messages based off what we saw. And so I
Babe,
feel for
I
her for that.
you
But
sin,
hmm?
babe. First of all, don't call me babe if you're
Yeah.
not if you're not into me, right? And then don't say I miss you, just like you're saying that guy on the second date. And
Yeah.
when he says, and I didn't even really get it from what you just said, the part where he tells her two things. He says you're blocked up or off,
Oh, yes. 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 Yes.
and
That's right.
then says, well, you express your feelings when it's not always time to do it. Well, which is it? Is she blocked or is she expressing too much? It can't be both. That's how I felt about him.
Hmm.
He didn't even know what he was saying. He was just
Yeah.
talking smack
Yeah.
about her. Lori says at the end when they ask her what she's learned, this is an exact quote. Everything is supposed to work out the way it's supposed to. This is what Lori says. This tells me that she didn't learn anything about herself because that's
No.
not what this journey was about. This
No.
journey was for being a home and not being an airport. Not that everything was supposed to work out the way it was. It's like, no, you have to change yourself to make things work out better for you. I'm
No.
all worked up
Her,
over that.
her toxic traits are still there.
I was really hoping at the end she would come around and say, you know what? I think I was probably too hard on my dates. I think I shouldn't interview them. I think maybe I should look more at myself. I think I should be more vulnerable. She said none of those things.
I'm sorry, she is not like self-aware enough.
No.
I feel like she has no self-awareness.
And we're
Yeah.
both super worked up about this. Let's
Yeah.
move on to Nate because we could sit here and talk about Lori for the rest of the
I'm
episode,
not
which
a,
we
I'm
don't
not
want
a
to
big
do.
fan of Nate either. I'm really not.
But
I'm not a big fan of Nate either.
we're
I think
in
Nate and Lori should have been put together. Can you
Nate
imagine
likes
Nate and
younger
Laura on a
women.
date?
No, the Nate Lori date would be a complete disaster.
I know.
When we open up with Nate, we get some time with the rest of Nate's family outside of Jackie. Did you notice his daughter looks exactly like half of mom and half of dad? Just
Exactly. Yep.
exactly.
Those ribs looked good. Those ribs looked good. I will
I
say.
would not know what a good rib looked like. That was
I
a good.
know. I know. That was them. Yeah.
Okay, we know Nick can barbecue anyway.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Starts talking to his daughter. We don't really see him talk to his daughter at all. And his daughter comes over, his granddaughter. I didn't even know we had a granddaughter, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
And he cannot remember Latricia's name. He keeps calling her Trey something. And then he says he went on a date with Anissa, but he pronounces her name as Anise. I mean, he only went
Anissa.
on four
Yeah.
dates. He can't remember two of their names. So Nate starts talking to his family about the women he liked. And the two women that he liked were Lisa and Michelle. He describes Lisa as a bubbly ray of sunshine. He says they were smiling and laughing the whole date. And then he said his fourth date was with Michelle. And he tells his daughter he tried to wear something sexy. And then they cut back to him at the pool. And all I could think about was he was in that hat that you absolutely hate.
Yes.
He's like, he's not sexy. He's going fishing for grouper. Like, that's what he.
Yeah.
For Michelle, did you notice that he says nothing about the date except that she looks sexy, whereas the way he described Lisa was all about personality?
Just like so many of these reality shows, right? You're like, no, that's not the one that you're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to pick. Like you can see it watching, and that's when you think they're just sticking to some old pattern or something. When yes, because again, the producers are trying to make it suspenseful. Who is he calling? Who is he asking out? We're not supposed to really know. I wasn't surprised it was Michelle. Were you?
A little.
Were you?
I was because I thought that we got the surprise with Avery because I thought it was going to be Jeff.
Mhm.
So I was a little surprised that it was Michelle because of the way that he described Lisa. So I thought, are they trying to throw us off? But you were
I
not
was disappointed. I was
disappointed.
disappointed, but I wouldn't say I was really surprised by it. So Michelle shows up and they go to a comedy, which didn't look that funny, the stand up. So
Sin. This was first of all, he's sitting front row. There's a camera right there. Clearly, the whole thing was set up.
yes, yes,
Some
yes,
joke about blocking your family because your mom calls too much. I couldn't tell. It's not that the guy was bad. It's just not a date
yeah,
that I would choose. If you want to go to a comedy club, you got to sit in the back on a first date.
right,
And there
right,
has to be a comedy club of 200, 300 people or 100 people. Not, there were 8 people in the
yeah,
room.
right. That's a hard room. Right.
Hard.
So it's a hard room. And so they go outside, and she's right away super playful, not like doing this whole thing with him. I don't think she's that into him. I really don't. I mean, definitely by the end of the date. But even with that, I feel like because there's not really a lot there, so it's a little over the top for me
I
with her,
agree.
right? The whole it's a little too much. And then he says she's feisty. And she seemed a little surprised. And it's like, are you really surprised that someone would describe you as feisty? I did, right?
Certainly for Nate, she's feisty. She might not be
Yeah.
feisty for someone else, but for
Yeah.
Nate, who is like when she's just like you're saying, when she's going on and they're having this banter, he's not responding to that. Like he responded to Lisa, this woman
Yeah.
that was nice and soft, not honestly a woman that has a lot of opinions and seems really out there. Like I don't think that's Nate's type.
No, I'll tell you who I think Nate's type is. So then after, she'll ask him what he talks to Logan about, basically. And
Great question. Loved it. That's a question I would ask on a date.
now that's a
What do
good
you and your
question.
It is. What do you and your dating coach talk about?
Right? That is a good question because that will tell you a lot. It's not what do you think about me or where are you, and it's a great question. And he gets into a little bit because he's definitely very anal and pretty buttoned up and closed off, right? And military. So it sparks this conversation where she is saying to him, like, so what happens if we're getting ready to go out and I leave clothes out? And the first thing he says is, will you be at your house?
Hmm.
And he says that at least twice, if not three
Right.
times. Like, wait a minute. Aren't you on this show to meet somebody and be with somebody? And he does the same thing to his ex, Jacqueline, when she goes to take a drink out of the fridge. You don't live here. Why are you opening my fridge like you live here? And to me, it's a really big red flag,
Hmm.
huge red flag, and a big turnoff. And he says it pretty sternly. And I know he has this relationship with Jacqueline, and they can banter, and she kind of laughs it off and whatever. But with
But
Michelle,
she
you
does
can
not
see
get a drink. She
no,
stops.
no, and you can see Michelle's like, wait a minute. So if I leave clothes out, And again, he, keeps saying, you be at your own house. Then she said, you're not being in the moment. You're not living in the moment. He's like, well, I can't live in chaos. And is it chaos to have a dress on the bed?
I was just going to say that.
And I know there's definitely people that need to have everything in order. I know for me, like when I come home from work and the house can be a mess and things aren't put away, especially it's in the morning, I can get a little, but I've gotten more relaxed and I'm like, hey, I'm not going to have an architectural digest photo shoot here today. So it's okay. I'd rather go exercise and have my time doing that than making sure, this is picked up or that's picked up. And yes, there are moments where, but I'm also not like, what's his name? David Beckham, where I have to have every single thing so in order that I know if someone moved a hanger and obviously like Nate, where he's very uncomfortable with anything not being exactly in its exact place in an exact order. And that's very military. And she says that to him. I'm not military, dress right. I think that's the same.
Yeah.
And so that is the big red flag to me. And I think the kiss of death for Nate and Michelle.
Yeah, I think there was two things here. First of all, we have another dietary restriction with Nate, no seafood.
Yes.
And then I was like,
Yes.
can you really be allergic to all seafood? And then she's like, well, I'm a pescatarian. And I thought, ugh, he's a barbecue fanatic. And she's eating shrimp on pizza, which is its own problem. But he doesn't drink, no fish at all, no guacamole. And so I just see no connection here. Also, did you notice they put them at the most awkward table outside?
Yes. Yes.
Table. It's like a table in an alley where people are lining up to get in next to see the next mediocre comic. It wasn't great. But they start having in this discussion their first like low key argument, right? And it turns out, I think, to be their last argument.
Yes.
They are completely incompatible. I was just ready for this date to be over. I didn't really want to watch it anymore.
No. I didn't want to watch it from the beginning. I wasn't feeling it. I wasn't feeling the first date, but I think he was attracted to her. But that was about
beautiful. She's absolutely beautiful. And she's
But then
fun.
again, so is Anise. Anise is beautiful, and
Yeah,
he didn't
that's
really
right.
got her again. So I don't know what it was. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, he chooses Michelle to go on this date when really Lisa was his match. And, we could all see that. But just like Greg, he reaches back out to Lisa, same thing. Too little, too late. Lisa was out there dating and she'd already met someone. She was like moving on.
And so in Nate's mind, he's like, "Oh, well, see, that's all she wanted was a relationship, and so she's
That's
already in
right.
one."
That's
And
right.
or it's like her traveling, right? And she's not, but she's just like, "Nope, I don't want to be your runner-up." Who knows? Maybe that was it. Maybe she, at the end of the day, was like, "Yeah, you already like." I don't know. Maybe she moved on. And maybe she is dating someone else, or maybe she just said that because she moved on and she was no longer interested. But okay, so then can we cut to the end, season 8? I mean, then can we cut to episode 8, where Jacqueline and him are talking, and he says, and I wanna read, like he says, okay, sorry, let me find it. I have to, this was very, okay, I can't find it. Nate and Jacqueline are sitting there, and he says he's looking for his person. Looking for my person. She repeats it back, my person. And then he says to her, about her, oh, and you are looking for your gentleman, I think he says. And he kind of bites his lip and looks at her. And you're looking for your gentleman. And I'm like, I think he is interested in her more than just a friend, but I don't think he has the balls to put himself out there to really pursue it, because I think they belong together. I think she can put up with his little controlling idiosyncrasies and call him out and joke and have fun, but still be like a good friend and a person to him. And I think I think he has feelings for her.
Uh, he thanks her for taking this journey with him. He says, I just want to thank you for coming and basically being my partner in this, my person in this anyway. which was a really interesting choice for him. And the way that they kind of look at each other and their silence, they don't say much in that. No one is, no, no, no. No one says no, 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 or that, but they do kind of look at each other and then it cuts. And we don't see Nate anymore. And we're left to believe that perhaps he and Jackie could work something out.
I don't think they will.
I
Do you?
No, because I think they're both too shut down. And I think Nate's sense of needing to control everything. I was wondering this. I'm gonna play armchair
Mm.
second for a second. He jumps out of planes, something that a long time ago when his in his military career, something that you absolutely cannot control. When you jump out of a plane, you are at the mercy of your parachute and Mother Nature,
Right.
right? Things do not go right. He crashes and then he gets some pretty severe injuries. Did this make him have to control his life in such a way that he doesn't drink? A lot of people don't drink not because they're sober, but because they have to be in control of the situation all the time. They don't want to let this much loose, this much fun. Like getting drunk every now and then, and I don't even mean really drunk, but maybe sometimes even really drunk, you just can totally let go of every bit of your inhibition and you don't really have control over what you're saying or what you're doing. And that's not great all the time, but boy, it's really fun sometimes. Nate doesn't ever want to do that. He can't leave his clothes out, not even a blazer on the bed if he chooses not to wear it. Like this sense of him having to control everything is really hard. And he says he wants to maybe get married again. I did not sense that from him. Did
At
you sense?
all, when he kept saying that to Michelle, like,
Yeah.
you're at your house, you're at your house, you're at your house. How dare you open my fridge, even though they're obviously like best friends.
He's never getting married
Well,
again. I don't even know he's going to have a girlfriend.
no, and if it's not Jackie, I don't see it being somebody else. And I really don't think he has the balls to put it out there to her.
Yeah.
I really don't. I think that they could be together, but I don't think they will be together. And I think that if you're in the military, you probably there's already a certain degree of being controlling,
Yeah.
right? Like, and you want things a certain, you've got to have that. I understand that a little bit. I know when we had Northridge, or were you in LA during
I was
Northridge?
not. It was 94, I think, or something, right? I was in college.
I was here and experienced it, and there was, um, things falling off shelves and breaking, and there's all the aftershocks. And I remember at one point putting everything away and getting a vacuum and starting to vacuum, and it was like, yes, I need order, because everything was felt so out of control that in that moment I was trying to control the situation by cleaning and picking, doing all that. So I agree with you. And I think he already probably is probably already a controlling person anyways. And then that could definitely add to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll see. There is a little bit of follow up that I want to talk about when we get to
Yes.
the end with Nate. But let's move on to Pam because we don't have much to talk about with Pam. We did not get any further dates from Pam, and she's not in episode 7 at all. But I think that you and I ended up with like Pam. If Anise is our favorite, Pam to me was number 2 on this show. I cringed at the beginning with her. She saw the most personal growth of
Yes.
anyone through
Yes.
this
I
whole
just
show.
got chills. I just got chills. I seriously did when you
Yeah,
said that. Yeah, definitely. I think it saved her.
it saved her.
It saved her because we are social. We need socialization. We do. And I think she became reclusive
Mhm.
and she was suffering for it. And this brought her back out to a community, to being social, not even just with men, just with people.
With work.
And I know for me, when I will have some administration project and I'll just work from home for a couple of days, I go into the restaurant and those poor managers, because I won't shut up. I get in there, I'm like, and I'm joking, and I'm like, because I'm being social. And if I go 3 days, I'll get a little blue and I'll look at my husband like, I don't know what's wrong. I'm feeling kind of blue. And he's like, well, you've been working from home for 3 days. And I'm like, and he's right. And so and yes, I think some more than others need it, but I think it's important for everybody to have on some kind of level in some way, whatever it is. So I think that brings Pam a lot. And I love with her when they ask her about Dwight and she says, well, I made a great friend. And when they show them on the bus together, to me, they look like maybe they could be together, but maybe in 2 years.
Yeah, oh, I like that. I really loved this. idea that Dwight and Pam are, going to do some business together, or whatever that looks like. Their tour company looks like they're getting a group of other later daters, because they're all old,
Mhm. Yeah,
on a
yeah.
bus to take them on a tour called the Silver Hearts Club.
Mhm.
But I don't know if you notice, on further inspection, which means I paused the streaming, the sign looked like something that the producers printed at Kinko's and just slapped with
Yeah,
duct tape on the side of the car. Like, it wasn't a real painting on the side of the car. So it was clearly just uh,
right.
it was temporary.
Right,
But
right.
Dwight is darling. The way he's asking the women questions and keeping them engaged, like, I would go on that trip. I don't want to burst your bubble, but this company does not exist. There is no such thing as the Silver Hearts Club.
Yep.
There's no tour, so we're not going to Atlanta.
Wah,
It's going
wah,
touring with
wah.
Pam.
Buzzkill. Buzzkill. They do look like a couple that they would have a friendship first. And then maybe they
Yeah,
would go, you know what? He's my person
yeah.
later. But there wasn't a big sexual attraction and fireworks, which doesn't always mean anything at all.
That's totally right. We end with Logan and Pam and Zoe talking. I guess Logan tells Pam that when they first met, Pam was talking about the past all the time. And remember, Logan walked around and this is my husband and this is me with the Beatles and like all the paraphernalia in her house. And now that she's talking about the future, and even Pam says, I'm part of the community now and I'm reaching out to people. And this is the best outcome of this show, is that somebody who is older, just like you said, who's been a recluse, which she calls herself, changes and gets out there, because this idea that, it's not an idea, there's research on it, that loneliness brings about early death. This could have saved
Yeah.
Pam's life in some ways.
And connection is so important. And I do get and I feel like we're losing that as a society, as a community, because you might have different thoughts, but texting is not the same as having a conversation. It's also not the same even as being on the phone with somebody. And it's not, and both of those don't replace actually spending time with somebody. And so I was just talking about this with somebody last night. So often people will move, and they seems to me like the people I know who have moved later in life regret it because they miss their community. They miss
Right.
their friends. They miss their neighbors. They miss like home, whatever that is. And so I think for Pam, she, yes, was living in the past because she was just reclusive and she missed having that community, that outreach. And I'm just so happy for her, like that
Yeah,
she
me
found
me
that.
too. Me too. And so that's the end of the later daters.
Yeah.
So, Sin, I stalked Instagram and People Magazine, and I have some updates
I know.
on everyone. Did you do the
Yeah.
same?
A little, yeah, yeah. Yes.
Do you want me to go? Do you want to go?
You go, you go.
Okay. What we learn about Suzanne, this is from People Magazine and from her Instagram, is that she says she's still good friends with Avery, and they seem to be seeing each other periodically, but she's also seen other people. And as far as she knows, he might be seeing other people too. But she says that they're still friends. It's just not exclusive.
Oh, okay. So I did a little search. I'm sure you did a deeper dive than I
I
did.
did not.
It seemed that it was they were dating for a while, and then they kind of took a little bit of a break, but now they're kind of dating again, but not exclusively. That's how I took it.
Yeah, I
But
took it. I took it the same way. It seems like after the
okay.
months, after the later daters, they took us
Mhm.
and then came back, and
Yes.
they're just sort of
Yeah.
dating a little bit,
Yeah.
a little bit more casually.
Yes. And maybe just friends, but who knows? Yeah.
Okay, so Nate on his Instagram posted a selfie with Lisa on December 27th of 2024. And this is what it said. It said, grateful for the moments shared with at Lisa, whatever, on this incredible journey with the later daters. Every step has been truly special. Now, what does that sound like? Does that sound friends? There was a selfie taken with them that was not the
It
selfie.
wasn't the selfie. Okay, I was going to ask you.
I didn't even, I forgot about the selfie they took outside the restaurant, but it did not seem to be that selfie, because she doesn't, it was really, really close up.
Okay, so I thought that he was just still single and dating, but I didn't I did not look on Instagram. So that's interesting.
But that was in
Well,
December, and it doesn't mean that they're
mm,
dating. He's just saying that
no, no, they could have been at an event together,
right.
right? They could have like all like met up, the production and all the people on it, and could have met up, and he took a selfie. So who knows? Interesting. I could actually, I mean, if she could get past his controlling ways, I could see them together, I guess. I think she could maybe bring out a softness in him because she's so, um,
Sweet.
she's just has so much warmth and sweetness.
Or
But
yeah.
yeah, yeah, I really like as a person, yeah. But okay, can we bring up Anise and Willie?
Yes. Go ahead.
Not together. Ah, what?
They broke it off because they were
Ah,
looking for different things. And I guess it just didn't work out. Maybe it was too good to be true. I'm very, very sad about this. I
they
found
did
this
it
out
for 6 months.
6 months.
And what I saw, they said they realized they didn't have as much in common as they hoped, or something like that.
Okay. All
So
right.
that was wah wah wah. I hate that.
I'm sorry. We'll keep an eye out. You never know what can happen. Maybe a
Yeah.
niece will meet someone else. Lori uh, is single and she's just being rich Auntie Lori. She says Felton is her best friend. They talk 3 times a week, but she's still single as a dollar bill, which no one's surprised about any of
No,
that.
not surprised. Maybe she should have dollar bills on her shirt taped for her birthday.
Yeah, yeah, I guess. Then Pam is in touch with Dwight periodically, but is no longer working for his company because I don't think she ever did. I think that was
Yeah,
a total producer
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
But I ne and I got no information about Greg. I'm just realizing because I kind of forgot about Greg. Did you
yeah.
find about him?
No, unfortunately, yeah, I did not. I didn't even look.
I
Cried
didn't
too.
look either. I totally forgot. No, at the end, so bad.
Yeah.
Okay, do you have anything to say as our outro music goes on?
We need another season of Later Daters. Yes, or they're all at Machongo Casino somewhere. Instead of whatchamacallit, Bachelor in Paradise, they're at some like bad casino in the middle. Who knows
Later
where?
daters at the casino.
Right, right. But yes, I really hope that there is a season 2. And I do hope they bring Martin in as a contender. And I really enjoyed the show. I thought it was really sweet.
It was very heartwarming, and you and I are going to watch The Bachelor tomorrow night and do our recap
Okay.
live after we've been drinking ginger margaritas and maybe champagne and maybe something else. I don't know.
Yeah. So don't miss that because that's going to be exciting.
That's going to be exciting. I don't know what
Or
you
not. We'll be laughing. We'll enjoy ourselves. We
yeah,
don't know if anybody else will.
doesn't matter.
Doesn't
Uh,
matter.
I will see you in an hour and 15 minutes. Watch
Oh,
the Super
shit.
Bowl.